Please welcome and let's celebrate with a lot of applauses. Please welcome the gorgeous diva, Ms. Anu Aggarwal, walking up the stage with so much of charisma and warmth. Thank you so much, Anu, for joining us, and a warm, warm welcome to you. Over to you.
Namaste, everybody. This is the new normal, so I'm doing Can Everybody Do Namaste? I would love to see that. Thank you. So, does this define me? So we are going to talk about what actually is the secret of joyful living. Can you hear me properly, or do I need to be louder? Everybody? You can hear me? Okay. So, as I was coming, I was just thinking about a story I read when I was about 15 years old. So that was the time I was getting away from romance and Mills and Boon stories, and I was getting into existentialism. And I read this story called The Myth of Sisyphus. Has anybody read it? By Albert Camus. Now, this story is about this guy, okay? This guy has been cursed. And what the curse is? He has to lift this huge boulder. And there's this steep mountain in front of him. And he has to walk up this mountain and place the boulder on the top of the mountain. Then his curse he'll be free of the curse. But it's not an easy task. It's a heavy boulder. The mountain is steep, so when he starts, every morning he wakes up and he starts to climb up. But as he reaches like maybe half the mountain, he slips down and the boulder comes all the way falling down. And he comes back down again, lifts the boulder, and starts to climb back up again. And again the boulder slips. And this goes on for months. And one day, he is about to start in the morning when he realizes he has a question, and he says, hey, what if I can push the boulder all the way up and it stays there? What will happen then? They say, I'll be freed. But am I not freed now? And that's the day he is free and he stops pushing the boulder up. Now, check this out. In my own life, right? So in my teens, I wanted to be independent girl and etc. And Ashiki comes up with this dialogue. मैं अपने पैरों पे खड़ा होना चाहती हूँ. मैं कुछ बनना चाहती हूँ. अपना कुछ पाना चाहती हूँ. So when I heard this, I said, wow, now this is the movie I need to do, because it represents what I think the women should know and be today. In the early 90s, it was not very common that a lot of women were thinking this. But what happens after I achieved that? And then, of course, I did whatever else I had to do. I launched MTV India. I endorsed the condom, which I wanted to do. I did everything that I wanted to do in 3 or 4 years. I got nominated for Filmfare Award. I acted in a Khalnaika. I played a glamorous diva. I played everything. I did it in 4 or 5 years. Film relieved in Cannes Festival. Wow. Now, suddenly, I'm feeling like that man pushing the boulder up the wall. And I felt that this was the boulder for me to have pushed up the wall, was to actually achieve success in the entertainment business which I have. Now, what do I do now? So I headed for the hills. Now, if you come back to today, that really is not what is the aim of the girls today, to be independent. Because a lot of girls are independent. A lot of women want a bahu that is kamau bahu. This is not something that is of importance today. You have girls who are independent, and you even have top actresses who are complaining of depression. Right? So what is the issue today? We are in 2022. What is the issue today? The issue today is the mind. We can't really manage our bloody minds. So the mind is playing hooky, and we don't know how to We are, in a certain sense, slaves of the mind, and we don't know how to control it, how to capture it, how to actually find the happiness that we think we actually deserve. Do you think you deserve happiness? Who thinks he deserves happiness, he or she? Please raise a hand. Right? Fantastic. Who else? Who else? Just 4 or 5 people. Everybody thinks they should be unhappy. Come on, guys. Hi, good morning. Who else? Want to be happy? Yeah, great. Everyone almost? No, not everyone. Now, tell me this. How many of you have actually studied the mind, your mind, how it works? How many? Raise your hand. Anybody? Great. Fantastic. You have studied your mind, but did you study it from the objective or the perspective of your name, and this is my mind, and your association and your identification with it? Yes, you did. Okay. The real way to study the mind, I found, is when you look at it totally objectively as a witness. So you don't say, this is my mind, this is my history, this is what I've been through, and I think like this, therefore, right? You say, this is a process, a thought process, right? And you study the mind. Now let me tell you what happened to me. About, I've been away for 20 years. A lot of people keep asking me, where have you been? But 12 years of that has been spent in yoga living, monk, by the Ganga. No media, no social media, no media, nothing, no contact with the outside world. With the sole objective of studying the nature of my mind. And I'll tell you something, getting stardom has not been more difficult. This was so difficult, because to know your own mind is, okay, you guys need to try it. I don't want to tell you this, because you have to try to really understand how difficult it is. In fact, in the city, we don't even think it's important. So most of us don't even do it. But when I studied the mind, and of course the other thing, I was doing karma yoga. You know what karma yoga is? So yoga is very many different kinds of yoga. Yeah? One of them is karma yoga. Karma yoga is action without, loosely speaking, action without any want. So you don't want a salary, you don't want rewards, you don't want awards. You have surrendered to the divine, so to say, and you perform each and every act only thinking of the good you're doing to others. And this is what training I did for that long, right? Okay. But apart from that, but the nature of the mind, monkey. Now, just after Ashiki, 7 months after Ashiki, now you know, I mean, whoever, maybe some people know, I don't know if everyone knows, but I was flooded with paparazzi, the media, people after Ashiki, right? And I was going berserk. I'm being honest, I didn't know how to handle that. I was like, what do I do now? Stardom, everyone thinks it's so wonderful, but look at this. No, anyway. So a friend of mine who was a flamenco dancer in Spain was down, and she took me to this 10-day meditation course. And where for 10 days we sat in silence, we pledged no speaking, no lying, no cheating, not even sexual misconduct of thought, eating only till 12 noon, after 12 noon, no food, you know, all of this, and quiet and meditation 8 hours a day, and then 2 hours of satsang, and then silence, and you go to bed, start at 4 in the morning. So this is what I did for 10 days, just 6 months, 7 months after Ashiki. And I'll tell you, that is my saving grace. Because I just suddenly realized that actually the mind fucking is full of junk. Because what were we doing? We were sitting. This is a technique. So we're sitting with our hands on our knees and whatever in some posture, and we have our eyes closed, and we were observing our breathing. I was like, God, I've got better things to do. My picture hai chhod ke kahan baithe hue? How can you be looking at the breath? No. But anyway, I stayed on, I lasted, and I found that eventually, when I started to get into the depth of my mind, there was so much happening there, which I was never aware of. I had no idea. I had so many thoughts. I had so many thoughts of the past. I had so many thoughts of what I want to do in the future. I had so many thoughts of people who hurt me, people who blamed me. I had so many thoughts of where I succeeded, things like, they were all flowing rapidly in my mind. And I wasn't aware of it in my conscious state. So the mind is, okay, now I want to ask you this question. Do you know how many thoughts? You know you have thoughts, right? Each one of you knows you have thoughts, right? You think. How many thoughts do you think you have in a day? Tell me. 2,000? Great. And you? 4,000? Anybody else? How much? Somebody at the back? Sorry, can't hear you. Mic, please. Okay. So, now don't be, be prepared to be a little shocked, because I was when I found out. A normal human mind has 1.6 million thoughts a day. Hello. And I was like, I really don't know me. Sorry, I've achieved everything else in the world, but I don't know me at all. Now, this is what I need to plunge myself into. Right? Do you know, okay, now you know there's a mind. Everybody thinks this is a mind, and my mind is in my brain, it's in the body. We talk of mental health, right? Mind, we know that there are two parts. There are two, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. All these things are talked about. Some people may know about it. But even inside that, did you know that your mind is like a working office, which works 24/7. You have people who are analyzing, you have people who are evaluating, you have people who are observing, you have people who are forming the perception, and all this is getting registered in your brain, and that's what is impacting your life, and you are creating your own future. To start with, check this out. First of all, action. What is action? I'll give you an example. It'll become easier for you guys to understand. First, let me explain, then I will give you the example. So the action is something. You do something, right? You do something. You look. So supposedly, I'm looking at the table, right? This is an action. I look at the table. But it doesn't stop here, because the next part of my mind immediately jumps up and says, I don't like it. I don't like it. Another part, maybe it may say, I really like the colors. I like the table. I like the size. So all this, the whole evaluation starts to happen. It doesn't stop here. The third part of your mind jumps up and says, you know what? I always knew these kind of tables are a problem to have, because you can't really sit on them. Only these many chairs can sit. It starts to give, these are your impressions which are already registered in your mind, in your chitta. And this, so according to that, you finally reach a conclusion. I like the table, or I hate the table, or I don't like it, or I'm neutral, right? Now it doesn't stop here. Then there's another part of your mind which comes up and says that this is your perception. This is your samskaras, if anybody knows about samskaras this is where samskaras are formed, which are strong impressions planted in your mind, in your chitta, in your skull. They are planted. So whatever else happens in your life is getting affected by what you have reacted, what I have reacted to one table. According to that, and what I have evaluated, everything else that is happening in my life, everything else gets, I am the master of my life, but I've become the slave of my mind because I don't know it. It controls me. It tells me when I should feel good and when I should cry and when I should feel love and when I should laugh and when I should not feel love, when I should feel. It's the mind is telling me all the time when I should be depressed. This is not good, so I get depressed. Why does anybody get depressed? It's the ego. Why can't you are filled with joy? And I found this out because my body got cracked. I was left with no choice. I wasn't searching for it. I cannot take any credit. But my body, when it got totally smattered, broken, I didn't have a body. Then I went to my innermost level. And that level is filled with joy. It's nothing else but joy. And even when I came out, when I was like everyone looking at me saying, poor thing, sorry, we feel sorry. My face was paralyzed, so I couldn't smile. The smile wouldn't show. But I was smiling all the time. But it wouldn't show. So, poor thing, accident ho gaya, ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya. And I have this paranormal parts awakened in me, and I can see why a certain person standing in a room at a distance is feeling down is because of his own grief with his own life. But he doesn't even know it, or he even hides it. How many of us actually come out and talk about our problems, or show them? Our whole social conditioning is suppress, repress, hide. Okay, coming back to the mind. So these are your different parts of the mind. Now you have form perceptions. That's how you're reacting. What happens in turn? The good things that are happening in your life. Some amazing thing is happening in your life. But because you're stuck with your perceptions of I like this, I don't like this, this is the way, you think you know. This is the biggest problem man has. He thinks he knows. And that knowing is where? That knowing is only in your conscious mind. The conscious mind, which is just the tip of the iceberg, literally, is not even, you're not even dipping. Get back, get down. There's also a pearl at the bottom of the ocean. You haven't seen it. You're still, your entire life is run by this tip of the iceberg, feelings, emotions, relationships, jobs, everything. So what is the secret of joyful living? You are, each one of you sitting in each one of us is actually born from joy. How were we born? How were we conceived? We were conceived with the union of the sperm and the ova, the mother and the father, the two opposite energies. Male energy, female, they're totally opposite. XXXY chromosomes. They're totally passive, active, they're totally opposite energies. Why those? We actually are those two opposites. That's why we have in our lives, the turmoils that we do have. Because we are made of that. We come from there. So, first of all, the union. What is the union? What is yoga? Yoga is yuj in Sanskrit, which means union, coming together, merging. And therefore, I think that we are born from yuj, because it's the union of my mother and father that I'm born from, right? Each one of you is. So we are born, so yoga is inherent in us. We don't have to go and learn yoga. We are already yuj, part of yuj. Anyway, so we go on with our lives, and we say, okay, why am I not happy? Right? I'm sure a lot of times people a lot of you have gone through it. I've been through it. You think, why the hell am I not happy? So I've got this job. I'm the CEO of this company, and, I'm earning this money and these many zeros, and, I've got this car, and I've got this house, I've got these children, why am I not happy? Then, who is to blame, right? So start finding somebody to blame. Oh, that's because my mother said this, and that's why father said this. My wife did this, my children did this, my boss did this, my this did this. Politics, the world. We blame everything but ourselves. Where actually, the root problem is here. It's not there. But we spend so much time in blaming. Blame, the blame game. You watch the TV. Every day is blaming somebody or something for something. So, we are sitting and then we are not getting the best of it. First of all, then the husband is saying, this wife, she's too controlling. I wish she listened to me. My life would be happy. Really, that's all that is missing. All. If she became more understanding and more, the wife says, husband comes home every day from work, throws his shoes anywhere, at least keep them on the rack. If he just kept them on the rack every day, some discipline, I would be. But at the end of the day, it's all about only if our lives, each one of us are running our lives on only if principle. Only if this happened, I would be happy. But what are we doing in turn? We are missing out on, yes it is, this moment is really it. You don't know the past, you don't know the future. I check my story out. I went home, one evening I have gone out, fully joyous. I had just come back from yoga and doing karma yoga for 1.5 years, and I was living this yoga lifestyle, everything. And my friend pushed me, Are Anu, you don't come out. I said, no, late nights, no, I wake up at 4:30, sorry, I do Surya Namaskar and I'm not coming. So I've been doing this, right? One night, 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes, I'm finishing. One night I went out, and I never came back. 2 months later, when I came back, when I was brought on a wheelchair to that house, I looked at it as something alien. They said, it's your house. And I said, what does that? I didn't know what it meant. So, life, right now, what you have is all there is. And I just want to tell you one little thing about my experience. So I have been, I saw these slum children in 2014, and I formed an Anu Fund program for them to bring joy to them. And I was called by a Yoga Therapy Research Association in America, in Texas, to give a talk about them. And returning from there, I stopped in New York, which is one of my favorite cities, and stayed downtown, Greenwich Village, New York. So this friend of mine said to me, hey, listen, Anu, amazing work you're doing. Why don't you make a foundation? So I said, okay. She says, David Lynch has a foundation. There's a meditation he's promoting. So you promote Anu Fun on it. So that's how 2017, my foundation came about, with the sheer principle of bringing joy to people. And I hope that with today's talk, I have brought you some joy. And I hope that there's some message that you can derive from this. Thank you so much. Namaste.